The provocation. The galaxy had always seen Earth as a quiet, distant world. Humans were spoken of as stubborn, unpredictable, and far too emotional to fit into the neat order of interstellar politics. For centuries, the larger empires dismissed them, allowing humanity to trade only at the edges of space, keeping them excluded from the great councils of power. To most alien species, Earth was nothing more than a curious experiment, a planet of noisy primates who had climbed too far, too fast. But that changed when the Orion Dominion decided to make an example. The Dominion was powerful, stretching across a dozen star systems. Its fleets were vast, its soldiers trained from birth. It ruled with fear, demanding tribute and obedience. Smaller civilizations bent their knees without a fight, and when they looked at Earth, they saw a world that refused to bow. Humanity traded freely, defended its colonies fiercely, and never accepted Dominion protection. To the Dominion, this was defiance. And defiance had to be punished. It began with whispers, raids on human merchant ships. Cargo vessels disappeared in the void, their crews never heard from again. Frontier colonies reported strange attacks. Crops burned, communication relays destroyed, settlers vanishing without trace. The humans sent warnings to the Dominion demanding answers, but the Dominion only laughed. To them, humans were insects buzzing too loudly in a galaxy ruled by giants. One night, the Dominion fleet arrived at Vega Prime, a human colony of artists, scientists, and farmers. The skies turned red as orbital strikes rained down, cities crumbled, towers fell, and children screamed as fire swept through their homes. The Dominion made no effort to hide what they were doing. They wanted the galaxy to see. They wanted every world to know what happened to those who stood against them. For days, the humans of Vega Prime fought with whatever they had. Old defense platforms, militia ships, even mining craft armed with improvised weapons, all thrown against a fleet of warships that outnumbered and outgunned them. They knew they could not win, but they refused to surrender. Every time a Dominion soldier set foot on their soil, a human rose to fight them. Every time a warship fired, a human ship raced forward to block its path. By the end, Vega Prime was nothing but ruins. But the Dominion had made one fatal mistake. They thought humanity would break. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Broadcasts showed the destruction, the bodies buried under burning rubble, the desperate cries of survivors. For the first time in centuries, every nation on Earth spoke with one voice. Humanity had been mocked, bullied, and underestimated for too long. Now they were united by a single purpose: revenge. The Dominion's leaders laughed again. To them, humans had no great fleets, no ancient weapons, no empires of thousands of worlds. What could they possibly do against the might of the Dominion? A single fleet would crush Earth's defenses. A single order could wipe their colonies from the stars. But they did not understand humanity. They did not understand the fire that burned in the heart of every soldier, every engineer, every mother and father who had lost their children on Vega Prime. Across Earth's space, shipyards roared to life. Factories that had once built peaceful exploration craft now forged weapons of war. Pilots trained day and night. Soldiers volunteered in numbers so vast that commanders had to turn them away. Humanity was no longer building for survival. They were building for vengeance. And in the shadows of Earth's orbit, hidden from alien eyes, something else stirred. The Dominion thought humanity weak because they saw only what humanity allowed them to see. They did not know of the old warships, sealed away beneath the seas and mountains of Earth, relics from conflicts the galaxy had long forgotten. They did not know that humanity had prepared for the day when someone would push them too far. The humans had a saying, "We do not start wars, but if you bring war to us, we will finish it." And now the galaxy would learn what that truly meant. The awakening, the Dominion expected silence. After the ashes of Vega Prime, they imagined Earth would fall to its knees, begging for mercy. But instead, the stars carried a different sound, the roar of awakening. On Earth, leaders from every nation gathered in a single chamber deep beneath the United Nations compound. For the first time in history, no one argued over borders, trade, or politics. The images of Vega Prime were still burned into their eyes. Children crushed beneath steel, families erased in fire. These memories spoke louder than any speech. There was only one question left. How should humanity answer? The vote was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. Earth would not forgive. Humanity would strike back. The order spread like lightning. Around the planet, Shipyards once used for peaceful commerce were converted into military factories. Civilian workers became engineers of war. Small orbital stations were joined together into massive dry docks. Cargo ships were stripped down and rebuilt as gunships. Entire industries shifted overnight and no one complained. Humanity had been wounded and the wound demanded blood. But even as the factories screamed, another plan unfolded in secret. Far from the eyes of the Dominion, humanity had been hiding its truest strength. Centuries earlier, after humanity's last great war on Earth, some nations had designed weapons so terrible that they swore never to use them again. Warships, titans of steel and plasma, had been buried in oceans, sealed inside caverns, locked away beneath deserts. They were supposed to remain forever silent, reminders of what mankind should never unleash again. Now, the locks were broken. Under the Atlantic, colossal machines rose from the waves, rusted but alive. In the deserts of old Asia, hangars the size of cities cracked open, revealing black silhouettes that blotted out the sky. The guardians of Earth, once entombed, now woke again. They were old, yes, but humans had always been masters of adaptation. Engineers and mechanics swarmed over them, breathing new life into ancient steel. The galaxy thought humans were unprepared. In truth, humanity had been preparing for centuries. Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, survivors of Vega Prime carried their rage into training camps. They told their stories to every recruit, how the Dominion burned their homes, how their families were slaughtered. Their words hardened the hearts of soldiers, turning fear into iron. Humanity was not just fighting for survival now. They were fighting for justice. The Dominion, watching from afar, dismissed these movements as noise. Their admirals called humans reckless animals and desperate fools. To them, humanity's ships were weak, their weapons crude, their tactics unrefined. They did not see what was truly happening. Earth was uniting in a way no alien species had ever imagined. Every factory, every soldier, every mind was turned toward one single purpose. That kind of unity was more dangerous than any fleet. The first human strike came not from Earth but from the shadows. A Dominion patrol ship, cruising along the borders of human space, suddenly vanished from all sensors. Its distress signal cut off mid-transmission. Hours later, another ship disappeared. Then another. At first, the Dominion thought it was a technical glitch. But soon, wreckage began to drift into nearby sectors. Dominion hulls torn open by weapons they could not identify. The galaxy began to whisper. The humans are striking back. Some laughed. Others doubted. But the survivors of those patrols knew the truth. Humanity was hunting. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion felt something they had almost forgotten: unease. Their fleets were mighty, their armies vast, but there was something strange about the way humans fought. They did not cling to old traditions or rigid orders. They adapted. Every loss became a lesson. Every failure was reshaped into a new strategy. Where other civilizations broke under pressure, humanity grew sharper, stronger, deadlier. Back on Earth, soldiers lined up to board transports bound for the stars. Each one carried not only weapons but stories. They carried the memory of Vega Prime, the fire of vengeance, and a promise passed from parent to child. Never again will humanity kneel. The Dominion had provoked Earth. They had spilled innocent blood. Now humanity's wrath was stirring like a storm on the horizon, and in the silence between stars, a truth began to spread, whispered from ship to ship, from soldier to soldier. We are not the prey. We are the storm. The first clash, the Dominion was confident. To them, humanity was nothing more than a stubborn nuisance, a race of upstart dreamers with no true power. They believed their fleets could crush Earth in a single campaign. They had no idea that the storm was already on its way. The first major confrontation happened in the Kepler sector, near a vital trade route. The Dominion had stationed a fleet there, 10 warships, each bristling with heavy cannons, each crewed by seasoned soldiers. Their admiral expected to intimidate the humans with overwhelming strength. He was certain no human vessel would dare challenge them. Then the humans arrived. At first, only 3 ships emerged from the dark. They were unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. Massive, angular giants covered in black armor that seemed to drink in the starlight. Their signatures did not match any known design. They moved slowly, but there was a kind of weight in their presence, as though the void itself bent around them. The Dominion admiral laughed. 3 ships against 10? It was madness. He ordered his fleet to fire. Lances of plasma streaked through the void, slamming into the human warships. The explosions lit up space like suns, but when the light cleared, the human vessels were still there. Their armor smoldered but held strong. Then, in perfect silence, the humans answered. Beams of white light cut through the void, slicing Dominion ships apart as if they were paper. Hulls split, decks vented into space, entire ships vanished in bursts of flame. The Dominion fleet fired again, but their weapons seemed clumsy compared to the precision of humanity's wrath. The 3 human warships advanced, relentless, unstoppable. In less than an hour, the Dominion's proud fleet was reduced to drifting wreckage. Survivors screamed for help across the comms, but no one came. The Kepler sector belonged to humanity now. Across the galaxy, word spread like wildfire. The Dominion tried to suppress the news, but whispers slipped through. Traders spoke of black warships that moved like predators in the night. Refugees described beams of light that split battleships apart in seconds. A single phrase began to echo across the stars. Do not provoke Earth. But the Dominion refused to believe. They sent another fleet, larger this time, 20 ships escorted by fighters and bombers. Humanity met them again, and again the result was the same. The Dominion's numbers counted for nothing against the precision, discipline, and fury of Earth's forces. These were not the weak explorers the galaxy had mocked for centuries. These were warriors forged in fire. Every pilot carried the memory of Vega Prime in their heart. Every soldier fought not for conquest but for justice. That made them unstoppable. Back on Earth, the awakening continued. The old warships were being refitted faster than ever. Engineers worked without rest, driven by the cries of vengeance that echoed through the colonies. Weapons once locked away by treaties were mounted on ships. Prototypes long considered too dangerous were rushed into battle readiness. Humanity was not holding back anymore. The Dominion's High Council began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to crush Earth with overwhelming force, to gather every fleet and burn humanity out of the stars once and for all. Others warned caution, pointing to the humiliating defeats. But arrogance won the debate. The Dominion had ruled unchallenged for centuries. How could a single species of upstart humans change that? And so preparations began for a massive invasion, an armada large enough to blot out the stars. The Dominion believed they would drown humanity in fire, but they did not understand the truth. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not break, and for every colony burned, for every family slain, humanity only grew stronger. In the training camps of Mars, young recruits swore oaths beneath red skies. On the shipyards of Luna, titans of steel were born from fire and iron. On the oceans of Earth, ancient war machines rose again, reborn with new power. The galaxy had seen many wars before, but this was different. This was not just a battle for territory or resources. This was the wrath of an entire species unleashed. And once that wrath had been set free, there would be no chain strong enough to bind it again. As humanity's fleets gathered at the edge of known space, one truth echoed louder than all others. They provoked Earth. Now Earth will answer. The Armada, the Dominion called it, Operation Silence. Their leaders believed that if they unleashed their full strength, humanity would finally be erased. No half measures, no raids, just a storm of fire that would drown Earth's resistance in one final blow. And so, the largest fleet the galaxy had seen in generations gathered at the border of human space. 100 warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, escorted by swarms of fighters and destroyers. Whole planets had been stripped to build this armada. Dominion propaganda announced victory before the first shot was even fired. To the rest of the galaxy, it seemed certain. How could Earth stand against this? But humanity was waiting. In the cold black of space near the Sol system, hidden sensors detected the Armada's movement days before it arrived. Human scouts, small and fast, shadowed the Dominion fleet, relaying every detail back to Earth Command. On Luna, Mars, and orbital stations across the system, preparations reached their final stage. Humanity had no illusions. This battle would decide everything. If Earth fell, humanity would be broken. But if Earth stood, the galaxy itself would change. The Dominion expected fear. They expected humanity to scatter, to retreat, to beg for peace. Instead, what they found was silence, an eerie, focused calm. The humans did not run. They prepared to strike. When the Dominion Armada crossed into human space, they were met by something unexpected. Not scattered defenders, but a wall of warships. Dozens of massive vessels, their black armor glinting under distant suns, aligned in perfect formation. Fighters poured out like swarms of steel hornets. Behind them, orbital platforms and planetary cannons powered up, their barrels glowing with energy. The Dominion admiral laughed. This was the resistance? A handful of ancient ships patched together by desperate mechanics? He gave the order, advance and burn everything. The first volley came from the Dominion, a storm of plasma, torpedoes, and rail slugs filling the void. Explosions ripped through space as human ships shook under the assault. But when the smoke cleared, the line held. The humans answered. From the lead ships, lances of pure energy erupted brighter than suns. Dominion cruisers split in half before they even knew they were targeted. Fighters swarmed, weaving through enemy lines with impossible precision. Every Dominion formation they tried to maintain collapsed under relentless strikes. The admiral barked orders, but the humans fought differently. They were unpredictable, adapting in seconds. When a human ship was destroyed, 3 more shifted to fill its place. When Dominion fighters outnumbered human squadrons, the humans used tactics no Dominion strategist had ever seen, baiting enemies into traps, sacrificing ships only to lure entire wings into crossfire. And then came the revelation. From the shadow of Earth's moon, Titans emerged, colossal warships older than any living Dominion commander, yet bristling with newly forged weapons. These were the buried giants, the sleeping monsters humanity had hidden for centuries. Their arrival turned the tide instantly. One fired a single broadside and 3 Dominion destroyers disintegrated. Another unleashed a wave of drones, each one carrying enough firepower to cripple a cruiser. The Dominion fleet, once so confident, now staggered under the sheer ferocity of Earth's counterattack. For the first time in living memory, a Dominion admiral hesitated. His fleet was larger, but the humans fought with a kind of fury that numbers could not match. This was not about conquest or expansion. This was vengeance. Across the battlefield, Dominion ships began to fall back. But retreat was impossible. The humans pressed forward, merciless and unyielding. Every human pilot carried Vega Prime in their heart. Every cannon fired with the weight of justice. Hours turned into a day, the void filled with fire and wreckage. By the time the last Dominion ship broke formation, the battlefield was littered with burning hulks. Human ships, scarred and battered, still held the line. The invasion, the mighty Operation Silence, had been broken. The galaxy gasped. The impossible had happened. Humanity had stood against the largest armada the Dominion could muster, and humanity had won. On Earth, cheers erupted across every city, every colony. Survivors wept, not just for victory, but for the proof that humanity was no longer prey. They were warriors. They were defenders. They were something the galaxy had never faced before. But in the shadows of the Dominion capital, fear spread. If humans could defeat such a fleet, what else were they capable of? And what would they do now that the chains of restraint had been shattered? The answer would soon come, for humanity was no longer satisfied with survival. They were ready to carry the war into the heart of the Dominion itself. The wrath of Earth had only just begun. The counterstrike. The galaxy had expected Earth to fall. Instead, Earth had stood. The destruction of the Dominion armada spread across the stars like wildfire, carried by traders, smugglers, and refugees. For the first time in centuries, whispers of Dominion invincibility began to fade. A single phrase now passed between worlds like a spark. The humans fought back, and they won. The Dominion Council panicked. Their empire had ruled through fear, but fear was slipping away. To lose once was humiliating. To lose twice was unthinkable. They scrambled to assemble new fleets to silence the uprising before it grew. But humanity was no longer waiting. The survivors of Vega Prime had demanded vengeance. Now, humanity delivered it. From the shipyards of Mars, new dreadnoughts rolled out, sleek titans of steel powered by engines the Dominion had never seen before. From Earth's oceans rose more of the hidden giants, reforged with modern weapons. Entire fleets now carried the black banners of humanity's wrath, and they did not stay home. The first strike came at the Dominion's forward base in the Altair system. Dominion soldiers stationed there had grown used to bullying weak colonies, never fearing retaliation. They woke one dawn cycle to alarms screaming across their station. Human warships, black and silent, emerged from hyperspace. Before the Dominion could organize, the station's shields collapsed under a barrage of fire. Fighters swarmed the skies, blasting apart Dominion craft with ruthless precision. By the time reinforcements arrived, the base was gone. Nothing but drifting debris and burning wreckage. It was not conquest. Humanity did not linger to claim the system. They struck, destroyed, and vanished. Like ghosts in the void, they left only ashes behind. Then came another strike. And another. Dominion supply routes collapsed as human fleets cut through them like knives. Convoys carrying fuel, weapons, and food were ambushed and annihilated. Outposts that once served as symbols of Dominion strength were reduced to silence. Every attack carried a message. You brought war to us. Now we bring war to you. The galaxy trembled. For centuries, smaller civilizations had cowered under the Dominion's boot. Now they watched as humanity bled the giant empire dry, one wound at a time. Some whispered of rebellion. Others prayed for alliances. But all understood one thing. Earth was no longer a quiet world on the edge of space. Earth was a storm sweeping across the stars. Inside Dominion space, fear spread faster than fire. Entire colonies whispered in secret, wondering if the humans would strike them next. Admirals who once boasted of crushing Earth now struggled to hold their own territories. The Dominion tried to paint humans as monsters, savages bent on destruction, but their propaganda faltered. Too many had seen the truth. Humanity did not attack civilians. Humanity did not conquer. Humanity struck only at the Dominion's war machine. That was what made them terrifying. They were not conquerors, they were avengers. On the bridge of one of Earth's great warships, commanders studied the growing maps of victory. Piece by piece, the Dominion's power was being torn apart. Every human victory lit a fire in the hearts of the oppressed. Humanity had no need for allies, but they found them anyway. Small civilizations that had suffered for centuries under the Dominion began offering supplies, intelligence, even troops. For the first time, the Dominion faced not just humanity, but a rising tide of rebellion. The Dominion Council grew desperate. They ordered new superweapons into production. They executed governors suspected of weakness. They even debated burning entire planets just to show they still held power. But the harder they grasped, the faster control slipped through their fingers. And behind it all, humanity pressed forward. Each battle hardened them. Each strike brought them closer to the Dominion's heart. Humanity was no longer fighting on defense. They were carrying the war into enemy space, determined to end it on their own terms. And in the silence between battles, every human soldier remembered the faces of Vega Prime, their families, their children, their homes turned to ash. The memory was no longer pain. It was fuel. The galaxy now understood a terrible truth. When humanity fought for survival, they were dangerous. But when humanity fought for vengeance, they were unstoppable. The question was no longer if the Dominion would fall. The question was when.